When your CEC is the one who signs as the receiver of revenue, it's like William Ruto signing for Attorney General because he's the appointing authority. That is utter chaos. That is an indication that there's a criminal enterprise being run in that county, being coordinated and being led by the CEC Finance. Senator Cherargei has raised a very important question, which we must address. Who was your receiver of revenue during that period? Because this is a report of the receiver of revenue.
Chair is CEC Finance, and maybe she can explain herself.
Does it need I don't think it needs an explanation.
Yes.
What explanation would be required if this is a report of the receiver of revenue? CC, what do you want to explain?
When you look at that section 157, and if someone can read for us, it indicates that the CEC Finance will designate persons, more than one person. And in that financial year, I designated more than 10 receivers of revenue.
Are you talking about receivers or collectors?
No, on the issue he has mentioned on how I...
What are you responding to?
Why I signed that document, receiver of revenue document, instead of receiver of revenue.
Was there a receiver of revenue away from you?
Many of them, as the section indicates.
What does that section say of the PFM Act? Does it talk of receivers of revenue or a receiver of revenue?
And if we allow me to...
Looking at the report of the receiver of revenue for Busia County Executive. Collectors can be many, yes, but the receiver is one.
Yes, and we are indicating the receiver of revenue, chairman, because from the statement, if you read it, indicates that CEC Finance shall, in writing, designate persons, and therefore that report refers to received revenue from different receivers of revenue, and me being in charge of them, I signed on behalf of them.
So who are the receivers, even if we are to go with that argument, who are the receivers of revenue that you designated?
The chief officers in different departments.
Were they receivers or collectors?
They were receivers, and they are allowed to appoint the collectors of revenue.
Now, that is your interpretation. Legal...
It can be read.
Well, you are not going to direct us. Legal, please read for us the section.
Section 157, the County Executive Committee member for Finance shall in writing designate persons to be responsible for collecting and receiving and accounting for such county government revenue as the County Executive Committee for Finance may specify in the letters of designation. Subsection 2, a receiver of county government revenue is responsible to the County Executive Committee member for Finance for ensuring that the revenue for which the receiver is responsible is collected or recovered and is accounted for. Through the chair, section 158 it states that a receiver of subsection 1, a receiver of revenue for a county government may authorize any public officer employed by that county government or any of its entities to be a collector of revenue for the purpose of collecting revenue for that county government and remitting it to the receiver. Subsection 2, any other public officer other than a receiver of revenue or collector of revenue for a county government who collects revenue for that government shall no later than 3 days after receiving it deliver the revenue to a receiver or collector of revenue for that county government. Subsection 3, a receiver of revenue for a county government shall provide quarterly statements to the county treasury with copies to the National Treasury and the Commission of Revenue Allocation.
Now, there is also the regulations that are read alongside that. Collection of revenue, responsibility for revenue management, the responsibility of receivers of revenue. Governor, you are consuming wrong advice. Your CEC cannot purport to sign the receiver of revenue statement. All other counties have one receiver of revenue. The rest are collectors of revenue. The fact that the word persons has been used in that act does not legitimize the kind of chaos that your CEC is proposing. In fact, many of the counties that have succeeded in improving on-source revenue have established revenue boards. They have designated a receiver of revenue, and even the Assembly has processed legislation to give further effect to the PFM Act and PFM regulations. When your CEC is the one who signs as the receiver of revenue, it's like William Ruto signing for Attorney General because he's the appointing authority. That is utter chaos. And that is why we cannot make sense of this statement. Now, who then takes responsibility if you have multiple receivers of revenue? Where does the buck stop?
Chair, let me have our attorney maybe help us out in the way we understood this thing, so that if it's a matter of legality, then we can be guided.
Listen,
we
Governor,
can be guided.
You see, I'm trying to be very moderate in today's session, because we have not just come to grill you, we have also come to share experiences from the other counties. That situation, and if your county attorney insists on it, it is wrong advice. It is a recipe for chaos. Because tell me, as CEO, if you have 20 receivers of revenue, who are you going to hold responsible for this report? You have been put in an embarrassing situation where you cannot explain movements. You have to refer to 10, 20 people to explain 1 page of a report. And that is why other counties have one receiver of revenue designated in writing by the CEC Finance. When the CEC Finance takes on the role of being the receiver of revenue, that is an indication that there's a criminal enterprise being run in that county, being coordinated and being led by the CEC Finance. And that is why they want to be the policy maker, they want to be the executor, they want to be the oversight, they want to be everything. They do not trust anybody else to come and see how revenue collection is being done. And Governor, and I'm not saying it is happening in Busia, we have seen it in other counties. That only happens to cover up theft.
Can I explain
Chair,
something,
allow us here to ventilate on
Can
that
I
issue.
clarify?
Okay, maybe you can get the submissions from the members first. And
Yeah,
then
let's ventilate on that issue, Chair. I want to understand from, no, not the governor, because the governor clearly is just being misled. That's exactly what's happening, just being misled. I want to understand from the CEC. Once the law designates a responsibility to you, and that responsibility is specific, you are told, appoint. What residue function do you have after the appointment? You've been told to appoint a receiver of revenue. What role in receiving revenue is left in your office?
Either the CCM misled the governor, or the governor allowed himself to be misled, or the governor ignored the advice, because the law is very clear, Governor, that the CCM should, by the time, because these issues that have been raised on the issue of that has been collected under on-source revenue, where your revenue potential is more than 2 billion, but you are collecting 357, of course, inclusive of hospital, which we have passed the law under FIF, should have been addressed, should have drawn a concern for you, that the CCM, Madam Topista Naiti Wanyama, was signing a county receiver of revenue. Yet she should be the one setting up the governance structures and appointing people. And the law is very clear, it says, shall. If it said may, we would have allowed her to get away with.
Just for clarity, if we had allowed our county attorney to say something, we have CEC Finance, but then we have got chief officers in various departments who are basically also designated as accounting officers. And then on the side of revenue, we also have got a director of revenue. So if you are just allowed us, because that's the structure that we have, if you are allowed us, maybe just our county attorney to say something, so that then we'll be able to see maybe the way we have configured our government vis-a-vis what you are saying, there could be some issues. But that is the way we have configured our government, that we have a CC, they designate. In fact, there are 2 designated functions to the chief officers, the authorized officer and an accounting officer. And then those roles are given to them on behalf of the treasury. Now, within the same treasury, we have got, in our structure, in our establishment, we have got director of revenue. Now, we have also been toying, or rather ventilating, on going the way you are talking about, having revenue boards. And I think we have even drafts on what we need to do to go that route. So if we just allowed, because it seems it is an issue of interpretation of the law, maybe just to see what our county attorney was able to guide us on vis-a-vis what we are saying and the way our government is configured, so that we clear that issue.
I will give you a county attorney about 2 minutes, but
Okay.
that does not take us away from the fact that there are numbers here that are still not explained. Yes. That issue came up just to emphasize that that could be part of the reason why the governor is unable to explain numbers, because there are almost 20 people he has to refer to, and that is an extremely unhealthy and an unprofessional setup.
Chair, my name is Omboko Innocent, County Attorney, Busia County. Thank you. So allow me, Chair, to just limit myself to the legality or the legal question in terms of interpretation of Section 157 of the PFM Act. My reading, Chair, and this is my legal opinion, and Chair, I reserve, the right to be wrong. Even courts sometimes are wrong, but this is my interpretation, that the use of the language in that section, a designation of receivers of revenue, it's in the head note, receivers, not receiver. In the language, in the body of that section, it says designate persons, not a person. And then it says specify in their letters, not in his or her letters, plural all through. My view, Chair, Honorable Chair, is that there is a discretion in terms of the organization of government, whether to select one person as a receiver of revenue or to have more than one, looking at the language of that provision, Chair. That is my interpretation. If I may go a little further, Chair.
Okay, just before you go further, is
Yes.
it also your interpretation that the appointing authority can appoint themselves as one of those receivers of revenues?
No, that's not correct.
That is a problem.
That's the problem we have.
That is a problem we are dealing with.
Well, my brother, you know,
Yeah.
we have a lot of respect for you, but we get very upset when we get people coming before the Senate trying to be clever. Because we are also very clever people. So please, don't perform legal gymnastics here. If a mistake has been made, Governor...
Chairman, I will stop.
No, just a
midstream.
minute. You see, the chairman has even tried to guide and said these problems occur everywhere. And the purpose of these meetings is not just to castigate or paint somebody in bad light. It is also to guide each other and say, this is what the law says, you have erred here, you can correct this by doing this. There is a reason why there has to be a designated receiver of revenue, because there are legal consequences and responsibility that is attached to the office. So, please, Governor, guide your team that...
And Chair, that's why I was saying that because of just what he has read and the configuration of government, and that's why I thought that one of the main role of the Senate is to strengthen the institutions. So all we are saying is that if we had configured our structure in the way it is currently configured, I think we'll be taking recommendations from the Senate that maybe relook at that configuration so that it doesn't appear like, it is a deliberate thing. It's just the way we interpreted it. And we are here as we interact all the time, as you always say, to improve on policies, to improve on governance issues, to strengthen institution. So this can also be one area that we can look. That's the way I'm interpreting it, to say maybe we have been doing ABCD. We need to borrow from the recommendations, Chair, maybe we'll be guided by you, that maybe you need now to reconfigure government in a manner the way you have just said.
But
please,
before we get there, Governor,
because that's the way
before we
had
get there, on the interjection by Senator Sifuna, whether the CEC can appoint themselves as the receiver of the revenue. We have a receiver of revenue report signed by the CEC. Is this therefore a legitimate document that the OAG and the Senate should consider?
Maybe, Chair, if you allowed our county attorney just to finish how we reached there, then we can be guided.
No, I think it's tied to the question. He has agreed that the CEC cannot appoint themselves. This is a report of the receiver of revenue. Is this therefore a legitimate report that we should be considering?
Chair, and in addition, we have agreed under the law that an appointing authority cannot appoint themselves. That is why you cannot appoint yourself as a CCM Finance. That is simple, so the Wakili does not need to go further.
Yeah,
so
we'll stand guided by the committee.
So you and the CEC should be ready for sentencing.
I just wanted to proceed further, Chair, and say that that was the organizational structure of government at that time. Subsequently, His Excellency, the Governor, made some adjustments in terms of reorganization of government and appointed a chief officer specifically responsible for revenue, seated on my right. And therefore, we would be probably amenable to the suggestion that then we could now have maybe the chief officer who is now there for revenue specifically designated as a receiver of revenue.
But remember, the designation is not done by the governor, it's done by the CEC Finance.
Yes, yes.
So,
I agreed with Honorable Senator that the CC has no residual powers once he is designated.
no. The one that you are telling us the good news, you are telling us it's even worse news. It's a further violation of the law. Why do you guys want to personalize revenue collection?
Chair,
What is it?
let me
what is the problem?
No, let me give clarity. You see, previously, other than the CEC, the chief officer was the chief officer in charge of all those functions. What I did, because of maybe the constraint of numbers of chief officers that we had, even the one who spoke, that is Timothy, you remember him introducing himself as a chief officer of trade and all that, but acting chief officer for revenue. So he's a chief officer for revenue. Now, the issue about receiver of revenue, as you have said, is what we need a clarity, and as I said, we are amiable to whatever suggestions or recommendations so that we are in compliance where maybe we may have interpreted this wrongly, because we only have a director of revenue and we have now chief officer revenue, which was previously one position held by one chief officer. But later I split them up, just looking at the the magnitude of work that was required, and we were not getting our way through. So that is what it is.
Chair, then does it mean then the governor then has appointed the chief officer of revenue to be the receiver of revenue? Is that what you're saying?
No.
So has he been designated by the
Now that's what we are saying.
Yeah.
From what you are saying here,
Yes.
we seem not to have gone
Designated,
further
yes.
and done that designation, as you are saying, either from the CEC Finance, because we assumed, and I tend to think just the way we have interpreted the law, that once the CEC designates somebody as an accounting officer, or the Public Service Board designates somebody as an authorized officer on issues of HR, that was our understanding. That once you are designated, then all those various chief officers were purported or assumed to be receivers of revenue within their departments. In fact, a lot of times when we have been sitting, and even the way you're asking the questions, and you saw so many of them here, is because we assume that all of you, since you are the accounting officers, you are also responsible for that. And that, I think, is given by the CEC Finance, not the governor.